Welcome to another installment, another episode of the Presbyterian. I don't want to forget the fact that it's you who makes this happen, and a big thank you for subscribing. Today I want to welcome Hazel Lynch, and this is I suppose the paraphrase title explains it beautifully: Exploring Church Bullying and Spiritual Abuse. Now, I've had a number of messages, and I'm sorry, maybe comments are turned off on the channel. It's just I don't have the strength to sort of be getting into it and answering everyone, so I just find it easier at the minute maybe not to. And plenty of people have contacted my minister in Abbott's Cross, and one of the overarching things they want to say is thank you for starting to speak up about these subjects. People are traumatized, people are victimized, and all sadly behind a serious abuse of power. And I haven't really thought about what's the mechanics and the engineering of that, especially in these big institutions where people have a lot of power. And it's sort of like, I suppose it's a bit rudimentary, maybe a wee bit a form of crude reductionism, but there's a part of me sort of feels like these are people that set up their own courts. They haven't really a clue what they're doing. It's akin to, like, I suppose, in my opinion, like many of the village idiots come and they dispense with thousands of years of Judeo Christianity, tradition of justice. They don't need evidence, don't need witnesses. They're guided by their own imagination and biases. But the decisions they make, it's like, so they make these decisions where basically they destroy people's lives, take them out the back and hang them. And it's completely, it's like another world of its own. But why is it going on? And big welcome to Hazlett. I just want to say thanks for coming along. And his books, he has books. But this one here, he's self-published. This is his newest, isn't this your newest book?
Second newest.
Second newest. And you can find it on Amazon. So I'm not going to be, as usual, folks come to take part in the podcast, so I'll not be talking all day. And but some of the things in the book, really, I just wanted to use as a rudder, sort of steer and hear from Hazlett. But one of the big things, Hazlett, that I have found people say in their messages is that they have lived in so much trauma and blame of themselves. And why are people that are abused, why do they feel so guilty and so filled with, they just can't, their soul and spirit is crushed? And why on earth do people in these big institutions, and of all things, it's enough to turn their stomach, but in the church, where we follow a risen servant king, the one who had all the power, who has power over and Lord of everything, who made himself a servant, who humbled himself to even death on a cross. Why are the so-called followers looking like depraved tyrants? Why? What's going on here?
Well, thank you very much, Barry, for inviting me along to take part in the broadcast today. I really appreciate the fact that you are putting your story out. I think this is absolutely essential because people just do not know what's going on within PCI and indeed other churches as well where I have connections. As someone who has been bullied back 30 years ago, almost to the point of suicide, thankfully I have survived it. I have come through and I'm able now to offer whatever little bit of support I can to those who are in a similar situation. You asked the question, why is this bullying and abuse going on in these big institutions? One reason, it works. It works. And people, when they are the targets, I prefer the word target to victim, they have been targeted by these people to bring them down, to control them, to domineer them, to manipulate what they say and what their situation was, so that they will look the better people in their own eyes and in the eyes of their cronies as a result of that. So it's really simply because it works. Bullying works. It leaves an awful lot of litter and damage behind. And I mean, I'm in contact with far too many ministers, and in some cases ministers' wives, who have been given the treatment. And it is simply appalling to see the damage that these people have done to God's children, to divine image bearers, to people who had given their lives to the service of Christ within the church. And yet these guys have, I sometimes think of the Peter principle, where these guys have been promoted to the level of their incompetence. And I think that incompetence comes across time and time again in their dealings with people. They don't know how to handle situations. And the result of that, of course, is that those of us at the receiving end are battered and bruised and damaged, sometimes beyond repair. And that's no credit to the people who did these things.
Okay. And one of the things that I hear people talking about is this, and I don't know a great deal about it, but the more I'm learning about it, I can see how it was to work in my life, because they made me feel less than a worm. I just had no point in living.
Yeah.
It is gaslighting. And this seems to be a big initiative employed within these bullying movements and targeting people. But can you tell us a wee bit about what is gaslighting?
Yeah, gaslighting is a fairly modern term, but it comes from a play that was written way back in the 1930s and became a film in Britain in 1940. And that film is about a married couple who seem to live in quite salubrious dwelling, a house, and everything the wife did was wrong. She was made to doubt herself. She was made to think that she's losing her mind, that she's going mad, she's losing her marbles. And I haven't seen the whole film, I've seen a good bit of it, but even the bit that I have seen, it just took me back to the time when I was going through the treatment in PCI, where your understanding of reality was questioned, it was undermined, you didn't get it right at all, you were imagining things, and the only people who got things right were the people who were doing the bullying. So it's that kind of of nasty procedure that these people follow in order to get the person that they have targeted, to get them broken down and beyond any ability to fight back. You can't fight back in these situations. You're faced with this powerful institution, and you have no way of fighting back. And when the powers that be take decisions, you have no appeal against them. So you're on a hiding to nothing. And I mean, I was still in the manse in Tobermore when I had contemplated suicide, because I could see no way out. There was this black scenario facing me. There was this cloud that was over me. And the only way that I could get any resolution was by, as I said, going out and never coming back. And that says far, far more about the people who put myself and people like yourself and people like others in that position. They just seem to glory in the fact that they can break an individual.
Once they make them into a hopeless case,
that's exactly it.
You're at their mercy.
You are.
And that's, I remember they just abandoned every single thing about me, my sense of humour, my education, the way I talk. I was just rubbish. I was just, they had asked me about phone calls with another minister. I gave him some advice he didn't like about a vacancy. And it was like 5 or 6 years before that. And it must have been 30 people phoned me about the vacant congregation. I was convener. And because I paused or hesitated to say, I don't really remember now the full, remember vague. Oh, you see, trying to tie down a jellyfish. There you go. Just more lies. And I'm like, how many phone calls from 6, completely abstract calls from 6 years ago, can you repeat word for word? But I was made feel like I had Alzheimer's. I was made feel it was just hopeless. There you go again.
But that's what gaslighting is.
But
that's what it does.
It
makes you doubt yourself. You're not living in the moment at all. And they try to doubt your memory recall. Okay, there are times when you just can't remember back to specific phone calls 6 years earlier. We're all in that position. But these guys use that to manipulate, to destroy, to dominate, to break you and to bring you down and leave you, as you say, just a worthless piece of
just nothingness. A worm. You're just a worm.
A worm, yeah.
And I think on your book and a few friends in your book, every single one of us commented on this. Here's it. I want to be an encouragement rather than trash you and attack you, trying to make you into some hopeless, naive moron. That's why they like to try and keep you. But that type of behaviour is the very antithesis of love. Like, how sick. It's one thing I keep saying. If I'm, as by the time things had gone on and I had become like Dr. Evil, you stub your toe in the county of Armagh, that's Barry Reid's fault. And but one of the things I'll never forget is that if I have all these victims, if there's all these trail of my victims, well, they never spoke to anybody. Like my wife surely would be a victim in all this, or need help, or all of these reports from people with no names and no faces about me having a cup of coffee with a woman. Surely they would need help. But after a year and a half of just being abandoned and treated like dirt, Like, then whenever we met up for this, I suppose, facade of a meeting in First Portadown on their turf, of course, the first thing that their wee squadron leader asked me, and I can remember sort of sitting in silence, and it was marked down as a red mark beside my name. Oh, what about Ashley and the children? We pray for them all the time. And I'm just sort of sitting there thinking, you what? You've never once spoken to them. What care? What care do you ever show? But what about them? Oh, after a year and a half, what about them? We're so caring, especially in light of the evil person you are.
Yeah.
So it's the way they act is actually the very antithesis. It's not love. I don't really know. I don't really know. Like, can you enlighten us on if it's not love, what is it?
Well, it's the opposite of love, isn't it? The very opposite. That's hate. There's a hatefulness in these people that is shown to people like you who have been targeted for the treatment. With regard to care, we got absolutely no care from the Presbyterian of Tyrone or from PCI as a whole. And the people that I regarded as my friends in the ministry, well, they turned out to be mere colleagues, mere people who worked in the same organisation.
You're maybe being generous.
And that is being generous. Generous. Just thinking back to research that has been done into this within Presbyterianism in the States, the researcher, he discovered that the one word that was never ever used about the bullies was the word kind. They used very negative terms to describe them. They were vindictive, they were false, they were hypercritical, etc., etc. And the word kind would never be applied to them. And I must say that I can my thinking resonates with that. There's no kindness. There's no care whatsoever. I had two guys from the Judicial Commission come to see me offering pastoral support. They came down 5 months in a row. Never once asked how Margaret was. Never once asked how the boys were. I have no recollection of scriptures ever been read or prayer offered. These were pastoral visits. One of them a really high-flying evangelical and the other a liberal ecumenical. No care whatsoever. And, people sometimes think that when I describe these guys, I'm speaking out of bitterness and out of vindictiveness towards them. That isn't the case. How can you use nice language, or what nice language can you use to describe somebody who works like a terrorist, somebody who behaves like a rapist, somebody who operates in the same way as an abortionist does, or somebody who uses a woman, say, as a prostitute? I mean, what nice words can you use to describe such people? And those are four of the metaphors that I have used to describe what was done in my case. Good people don't do that kind of thing. And I've come to the conclusion that the only situation where bullying can grow and thrive is in situations where holiness has been cancelled out, where love has been cancelled out, where 1 Corinthians 13 has been ripped out of the Bible and other related passages. Absolutely nothing there to show that these people had the Spirit of Christ within them, that they had the grace of Christ in their lives. Absolutely nothing to show that. That hurts me to say that, because these are all guys that I knew and worked with them for the 14 years that I was there. It grieves me to say that. But the evidence is such that I cannot come to any other conclusion. These guys, I think this is a very, very big issue within the evangelical camp, within Presbyterianism. In my view, these guys have broken their ordination vows. These guys, there's a big push nowadays about subscription, tightening up subscription. In my book, nowadays within BCA, subscription means nothing. Not a single thing. Why is it that we say at ordination that we accept Scripture as the supreme authority in the church? Why is it then that the church gives more credence and a higher position to church policy, whatever that is, than the Scriptures? And yet these men will never be disciplined for that. Never, ever disciplined. And what if what they did to you and to me and to other ministers and licentiates and students for the ministry, if what was done to them was discipline, church discipline, Christian discipline, the goal of discipline is to restore. And there has never, ever been any step towards offering any sense of restoration to me. I don't know what your situation was, maybe the same. Other men that I've spoken to, exactly the same. So it wasn't discipline at all that was exercised there. It was just some kind of a vindictiveness to get rid of people who don't fit.
A powerful word, which merciless vindictiveness.
Yep.
It's without mercy.
And
that's a big, big biblical and godly thing.
Yeah.
Mercy, because he had mercy on us.
That's exactly right.
What is the gospel about? You know, like, you see, we're talking about it being the very antithesis, their behaviour of love. It's the opposite of love.
Yeah.
But even as a pastor, as somebody that would give my life to the service of the gospel, church, I had numerous cases. Like, we are broken, making a mistake, etc. Like the sinfulness of youth, all that was everyday stuff. But whenever somebody came to me, like, my first reaction was, how do I help this person? How do you show them mercy? That there is hope, that there is redemption. Not, I wonder how I could torture them more and build up my own ego and make myself look more important at their expense. You know, I can't work it out. Why? Like, I suppose it gets to the point, but then they would probably say this is my muddled up, worthless brain, where I struggle to think that such a person that would think like that, like have they ever experienced God's mercy themselves? If that's your sole thing, is to further torture somebody that's made a mistake, it's almost sadistic. Like, is that fair? Like, I feel free to say that, so that it seems sadistic to do that.
Well, if we take the teaching of Jesus with any degree of seriousness, what does he say about these people? He says, by their fruits we shall know them. We've seen the fruits. The fruits are rotten. So those fruits were produced out of hearts that are rotten.
They're destructive.
It is destructive behaviour. You're right. And I mean, he also said there in John 13 that people will know that we are his disciples by the love that we show to others as well as to him. And that love has been not just absent, but has been replaced by bullying and spiritual abuse. And I think, as I look back over the years and look back over the Old Testament, bullying is the church's equivalent of stoning people in the Old Testament. They can't put us to death. They very nearly put me to death. Other people are facing that. But that is the replacement of stoning, is bullying. And bullying has got the potential to bring people to their death. Now, you know that far better than anybody else. I was so close to that. That it scares me even to think about it. So where is the love? I mean, brokenness, they have broken us, and this is something, just in case people think I deliberately broke this lovely plate, I didn't, it fell out of my hands, but
No way.
I was a whole plate. Then something happened, I was broken into all these bits, so I tried to stick it together again, not that it's going to be used, but it's used as an illustration. That's where I am today. Some people haven't even been stuck together, and they're still in bits. But that's a picture of how I see myself at the present time, as somebody who has been broken by PCI, broken into bits, and by the grace of God have had some degree of being stuck together again. But that's not the same as it was. It'll never be the same as it was, and I'll never be the same as I was up until 1993. But I'm glad in many ways that in the providence of God, I've had that experience. I don't say that lightly. I'm glad I've been able to come through that experience and now be able to have some understanding of what this is about, so that other people can benefit if that's
right, and that's right.
from what I'm trying to say.
We try and think on how even our awful situation and being targeted, is there a way that we can turn that around to be redemptive and to help someone?
Yeah.
And you've been very much part of that today. And I'm going to say at this point that a really big thank you. And I know some people will be looking online. The fire still burns, and then exploring church bullying and spiritual abuse. So they want to read up.
Sure.
And to come across the themes we've been talking about. But a big thank you, and a big thank you to our audience. Hopefully we will be recording some more podcasts, and I'll see you soon in one shape, form or fashion. So thank you to Hazelett, and thank you to my audience. Goodbye.